Hello, all, and welcome to our Experience Point stream. We are normally a podcast, but now we are streaming, and today we're going to do a Ask Me Anything style stream. We have just finished our Season 1, and we are going to be launching our Season 2. So welcome you all. Thank you so much for showing up on this wonderful Tuesday evening. My name is Kenny. My pronouns are he, they. And with me are these wonderful people. Steph, why don't you introduce yourself next?
Hi, all. I'm Steph. My pronouns are she, her. And you may remember me as Eos Nabari.
Kelrick?
Hello. Oh, hold on. Stop.
The joys of being live.
And we are live.
Hello, I'm Kelrick. My pronouns are he, him, and you may remember me as Angus McBrahman.
And PB.
I am PB from PB Plays Inside, and you may remember me as PB from PB Plays Inside.
PB is going to be joining our cast for Season 2. We're going to be playing the Dawn of Flame Adventure Path, produced by Paizo. We are all very excited about that, and one other major change is that I'm going to be DMing. I am terrified and excited, both in equal measure. Someone who is not here is Miu from at Miu Plays Games. They are not feeling well today, and so we wish them very well. So I think to kind of kick this off, let's talk a little bit about our first season. Like, how did we do? How do people feel about it? Let's start with Kelrick, since he originated the podcast and probably has the most connection to it.
Oh my goodness. I mean, like, I don't talk about it very much, but it took a lot to get our cast off the ground. We're probably the 5th incarnation of the cast, and I think that the way people have gelled together and really built some strong friendships is amazing. Being an all queer cast, it's real hard to find everyone local, and so finding your community outside of that is really cool. And I think it really showed in how the game moved. Like, our story arc just had this real interesting flow because we had so many new people come and go. But I thought the concept that Miu came up with was absolutely fantastic. I loved the characters. Miu is so talented with voices.
Mm-hmm.
My gosh, George. And I like George more than I like playing Angus. George is so awesome. It's so good. Yeah, it was great. And I think, the way it's morphed has been a really kind of cool thing to see the storyline have to change on the fly to adapt.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I can echo that. Like, it's interesting how when the cast did change, you could definitely tell, like, the flavor of the storytelling, and the interactions were definitely different, and it was fun to kind of feel that change. I'm going to transition the overlay a bit because I squashed Kelrick's head. that should be better now. Learning live, yay! Steph, how about you? How was your experience?
It's definitely a unique one. I know there's at least one other person on our sister cast who gets what my experience was, and they and I've talked about it. Because I started out as a fan of the pod,
mm-hmm.
and listening to it, and feeling at home from the jump, because I went from Roll to Fail, which is a phenomenal podcast. I love them to bits. But that's what was my introduction to Starfinder. And then I found Experience Points because I think Kelrick found me through Roll to Fail.
It was your live
and I went
tweeting.
All queer cast.
So talented.
Oh man, I'm just a nerd of many feels. I'm not that cool, I promise.
or you just are. You are cool.
Yeah, I mean, modesty is nice.
Maybe.
You are awesome.
But yeah, I mean, joining the cast for me kind of came off of a joke when Britt had joined the cast, and I loved their character and wanted to play off of that. And Calric took me seriously, and I learned the hard way: don't make jokes around the tabletop community because they listen. And and yeah, I built a character in like I think it was 2 weeks before the. It's been such a ride from coming in not really knowing what to expect and how my character was going to be introduced to becoming such an integral part of how the story ended. And I wish Miyu were here so I could pick their brain about what would have happened if we'd answered one question they posed us off the air differently. Like, I'm dying to know how the ending of it would have been different. But alas, I'll have to ask them off mic. But it's been great. It's been a unique experience because I don't want to, say anything that could be translated as weird or as bad because it was unique.
Yeah.
I learned how to play. Like, this is my first continual campaign, so it's a unique experience to be doing that on mic, for other people to consume.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, you did such a great job. And it was really interesting watching you go from being so nervous and shy to being like, I'm taking over. You know what? Eos is going to tell us how it is. And she was amazing at it. So good. So good. It was awesome.
Yeah. And speaking from my experience on it, it was definitely interesting, like the storytelling and where it went and how it changed from with actually each passing recording session. Like, everything was just kind of interesting surprise here and there, and it was fun to kind of build and develop the characters that we played. PB, you've been doing a lot of streaming. Have you done any podcasting in the past?
Podcasting in the past. Have I done podcasting in the past? That should probably be something I should quickly answer. But honestly, I've done so many just random things on the internet.
Yeah.
In the past few years. No, that one didn't work out. That never got off the ground. I did on my channel way back when I did do a sort of podcast type thing, but it was just me, myself, and I, where I would just talk about things from the week, and it was in sort of a podcast style. It was called Talking with PB, but that's really the only podcast-esque type thing I've done to this point, I think.
So we're like, if people don't know, we're transitioning into a streaming recording type session, and then we'll still be producing our podcast that we're going to be doing regularly. But what do you feel are the major differences between streaming and podcasting for you?
Definitely, I would say it's pacing from our side, the way things are paced from us, not so much how it comes out to the audience. Because when you're live, you just kind of have to roll with it. If you say something, it's just going to keep on going.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it kind of fizzles out or it doesn't work out like a joke or something like that, you just have to keep on going if it's live. Whereas in something that's pre-recorded, you can kind of just redo it. You can replay what you just did in a much more smooth fashion without all the stuttering or the breaks in between what you're saying to sound just better. I have done podcasts. I just remembered. Who would have thought editing was the thing that brought it back? I used to do it didn't last too long because the series didn't, but I did a podcast with me and my friends where we were doing a dual series on YouTube on the server, and then at the end of every week we would talk about how our experiences differed between our worlds based off of the game, and I edited that, and that's why it came to mind. because I remember editing out so many silences and pauses, and whenever like something happened in the background, loud noises, you could just cut that off, and I'd be like, all right, let's just say it again, this time with clearer audio. And live, you kind of just have to roll with it. You have to be like, oh guys, I have to go answer the, it's like, oh, BRB, I have to go answer the door, or I have to do this or that, and then everyone else has to just like build around that scene, pretending that that person's still there, or working around the fact that they're not there. That's what I would say would be the difference between podcasting and live.
How about you, Steph? Have you done any or any streaming? I guess you did streaming with us for Slasher, yeah?
Yeah, I did the Slasher stream, and then I did a Sunday Fun Day with Little Red Dot, and that was an experience because it was a little bit like when I jumped in with experience points, except it was live in front of a not so studio audience. um, but I got lucky that the group that I had were fantastic people. I already knew two of them from just interacting with them on the interwebs, and one of them I actually kind of poked to joining the game just so that we could play together. But yeah, I definitely agree with all that. You have so much more power in the editing to take out take out me doing stuff like this. But more than just that, you can add so much to the story with sound effects and music. And to me, like, that's always, something that brings me into something. Like, play me a music, like, I'll remember this music cue for like 5 different podcasts because it takes me right back to the moment of when that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Versus like we're live, like, yeah, you can be playing music while we're live, but it's not quite the same as like, oh, you took the time to kind of like search out the perfect song for this moment.
Curating. Yeah.
And I mean, Kel, do you want to add more to that? Like, because you've done both the streaming with the Slasher and the editing for experience points. How are you feeling about changing it up?
Oh, my love-hate with editing. Absolutely love it. It has nothing to do with being a control freak, I promise. It's just, I actually really enjoy it now. When I first started, though, it was taking me like 9 to 12 hours per episode.
More. It took you like 18 for the first couple of them.
It was so hard. But I love experience points so much. I was like, I'm doing it. And I've learned so much, and it's been really cool. I'm excited for the transition that Twitch brings, in that every Twitch stream I watch for TTRPGs is more story driven. And I feel like that was something that, because we got so technical as far as the rules go with Starfinder, that our characters didn't get as much playtime as we would like. I remember there was one show when Brit was still on, and we were just all riffing off each other when we weren't recording. We were just creating scenes. And on my end, since I do all the recording, there was some issue with the audio that we had no audio at all. And it just breaks my heart because it was so good. And I think you get a lot more of that with, live, Twitch streams, because people are they're ready for that kind of role play interaction. I think most of us come to it because we're hungry for it. We're like, yes, I want to role play. And the rules are important, but secondary to that. So I'm really excited about that. And then I think ripping the audio will be much easier. And, one of the big complaints I had with editing was I was pretty overzealous in getting rid of silences and ums. And since I was so zealous in that, there were a couple of times I completely changed the feel that characters were trying for. And so by doing a Twitch stream, that feeling is there, and it's it's much easier to know what people are going for and what to keep versus the podcast where, people, you just take more time. You're more thoughtful in what you're going to do because you're like, okay, I have the rules to look through. I just have all the time because this can be edited out. So the live, you're like, I really just want to keep it moving.
Yeah.
So the difference, you can really see it between Slasher and EQ points.
Well, and I mean, Fate is such a different system than Starfinder. I know with Starfinder, like, it is so easy to look at it and be like, okay, well, there's a rule for this, so let me try to find it. That's the compulsion where, when you're streaming, it's, you really do need to keep it snappy and you need to move on to the next thing. And so, rules become a little bit more improvisational, just like, everything else with it. So, I think that's going to be interesting, fun, and challenging, all at the same time. I'm right now doing a stream with PB and on Wandering DM's channel, Simon's channel. We're doing a game called Castle Falkenstein. No experience whatsoever. It's a game from the 90s, and it's such high concept, like very narratively driven and very Victorian, and just a little bit out of my wheelhouse as far as like knowledge of genre. And so like whenever something comes up I don't know, I'm like, I have Google open half the time where I'm just like, what are they talking about? Oh, okay, that thing. Yes, absolutely. And so it's one of those things where, like, even if I don't know what's going on, I'll be like, okay, cool. We'll just make this up and hopefully it get like people run with it. I think that's kind of the cool thing about doing something with sci-fi and fantasy is that you can just kind of put something out there, and it as long as it's, remotely within the genre, it floats a bit.
Wow, as my voice cracks, I apologize for anybody how rough I probably sound. I just got back from MomoCon last night, so lots of talking, lots of screaming, lots of dice rolling. I usually have a question for you guys, and PB, you can feel free to answer with one of your own characters, or I don't know if you were listening to season 1 at all, if you have an opinion. But what was your favorite character moment? And then conversely, what was your favorite moment of another player's? I know, on the spot.
Yeah.
I could start if you like. If you guys need a minute.
I absolutely know mine, but go ahead.
Go ahead.
Mine was the whole episode with Absco and their parents, and like just that was so much fun. And I felt really bad after recording it because I'm like, if my mom listens to this, she's gonna think I hate her. But no, it was just so much fun, and I feel like I really got into the character's head when we were doing that one, and so it just felt really genuine.
Yeah. I think for me, my favorite scene that someone else did would be when Megan was playing Kira, and she brought George into the crew just because of his arms. She's like, but the arms, of course he can fire things. Everyone's like, yeah, sure, he can fire stuff. And I was the only person like, but what are his skills? And Megan was so into Kira's character. She was just like, no, we got this. We're good. It was so amazing. And then I think it's the one time George rolled a nat 20 on Shing. And so it was like, I guess his arms do it. Sure. Oh, she was so great doing it. I loved it. It was awesome. What about you, Steve?
Well, my favorite character moment of EOS was probably Timeless. Like, as scared and terrified as I was to make sure I represented the blind community correctly, being a sighted person, just that whole moment in the archives when Eos figured out how to work it and ends up transporting herself to Eve. Like, I just vividly remember, like, not just playing that moment, but narratively how it went. It was so fantastic.
Mhm.
In terms of other people, like, gosh, that's the harder one for me to even pick, and I've been sitting on this question for days and I haven't yet to pick like one specific moment. um I I almost want to say it Eox. Like, I just like I loved the whole adventure hook moment when you could see the original cast just really, like, the characters really gel finally into a crew. Like, yeah, you guys have done community murder, but you got your murder hobo. You got that down.
Oh yeah.
But now you're acting like an actual team. And came up with the adventure hookers, which I remember cracking up at the time and was like, oh my god, I need to make something that says adventure hookers. Because that's when I made that logo. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So good. Yeah, that was really fun. I think my favorite moment of people gelling was when all of us plus Brit came together to save George.
That was pretty amazing. There was no plan for anybody else. We did not cut anything from that scene.
That was such
That
an
was
intense
how we
episode.
played it.
Or a
Yeah.
series of episodes. That was super intense. I was not prepared for that. Like,
Go ahead.
for context, for PB and for other people who may not have heard it, our crew was on the
Burning Archipelago.
and there was an instance where like a bomb went off in a bazaar, and like we were all in the middle of it, and so we're dealing with the all
the after effects.
Yeah. All the fallout from it, and our crew members were hurt, and like it was super intense and super crazy. Like I'm still getting a little bit of like goosebumps like talking about it. But like it was one of those things. Oh, go ahead.
Was trying to triage patients. Angus and Absco was trying to figure out who was responsible, so they were using their perception, and then Angus and Mordax went to go find George, because George was introducing us to our contact.
And Silverblade.
And Silverblade, of course. I consider Mordax Silverblade one being. And, it was just everyone falling into what their roles would be as far as a ship's crew. And then everything was just super intense and real. Like, we were like, okay, how can we get this done? There was a moment where either Mordax or Angus looked at Eos, or someone went over to Eos and was like, we need you right now. And
that was Mordax, because I remember that moment. It was something.
And Eos came over and was able to heal. And Mew told us after the fact that if we had not played that exactly as we did, like, their plan was for George to die. Like, but all of us came together so fluidly and perfectly, and we're just focused on saving this character. Mew was like, I guess you can have them.
Yeah, Mew was determined to kill a character at that point, like, or a NPC. They said that they take glee in doing things like that, and so.
Well, from a story standpoint, it would have probably been the fastest way to make the crew gel. It would have been the Coulson factor.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But haha, we
And-
foiled their plan.
Great reference. I love that. The Coulson, it's brilliant. Love it. Yeah, I think that is my favorite moment for any of the incarnations of the cruise to really gel. That was really great. Everyone's role play was just on.
Yeah.
What about with Angus?
Goodness. Honestly, my absolute favorite scene to have played with Angus, which I really wanted more of, was the Solarian battle when Wright Jesser was with us and she was playing another Solarian. We had our Solarian battle and we both just kept rolling nat 20s against each other. And it was so good. Because at first it was like, oh no, Jess is going to kick my ass. And then it was like, oh, maybe not. It was so good. That was hands down the most fun moment I had with Angus as a character, because it was just like in that moment playing a Solarian against another one. So it was really, really cool. I would have loved to have run back into I can't remember the character's name. What was the character's name?
Sitza.
Sitza.
Yeah. Oh, you're so good at remembering things.
I just thought of what does Jess have on our Discord server? That's literally how I remember.
Awesome. Well,
And
yeah,
Kenny?
I could have done more. Yeah, Kenny?
Or what was the question again?
A group or another character moment
Oh,
that you like.
another character moment.
Or a moment another character had other than Absco. I mean, I remember loving the one moment that we actually got to riff off each other that also got lost.
Oh, yeah.
Was the sensitivity training that we were going to do for Patreon.
Yeah.
That was such a fun afternoon.
It really was. It's a crime that I screwed that up.
It wasn't your fault.
No.
It was technology.
Yes.
Such a crime. It was so good. Veskian soap opera. And just, I mean, everyone just coming together and just riffing off. I think in under 10 minutes, coming up with a full story of what a soap opera for Vesks would be with characters. It was so good. So good. Steph was such a good influence.
Yeah. So let me think here. Evie, so you are included in this. What has been one of your favorite moments for either one of your streaming characters or in a role-playing game that you've been in recently?
I recently played a one-shot, and it's just because I think it's the most prevalent in my mind right now. I played a one-shot, I think, last Wednesday, and I went into it having not slept that night, or like having slept like maybe 30 minutes. I was basically up for 2 days at that point, and I was a little bit like, like I was on my second win. I didn't feel tired, but like I could clearly tell that I was not in like I just slept a good 8 hours mindset. I almost felt like I was buzzed on coffee without having drunk any. And so I played this one shot over on my friend's channel, Indoor Adventure, and it was a 1-page RPG. It was called Skeleton Adventures. Great one page. And you play as skeletons. And
That's awesome.
there are like 5 classes. It's like you can be a skeleton human, you can be a skeleton orc, skeleton goblin, skeleton, and maybe one other thing. And so it was very impromptu, where we all were just like, all right, we're going to do this Wednesday on like a Monday. So we were just like, okay, all we have to do is pick our name and what kind of skeleton we're going to be, and we'll roll for everything else later. And so we get there, we start playing the game, and like I do this thing when I'm really tired to just keep my brain active and moving, where I just pick a song and it just keeps playing on repeat in my brain. And for whatever reason that day, it was a meme song. It's a country meme song called Parked Out by the Lake, or Parked by the Lake, by some Summerlin, something like that, Dennis Summerlin, I don't know. But basically the song is just telling you that you're parked up by a lake 80 miles from Santa Fe over and over for approximately 3 minutes in different variations for the entire very good country song, but literally those are the lyrics. It just goes on in different variations. And so that song was just stuck in my head for no particular reason. I hadn't listened to it that day or anything. So I go in this like loopy mindset with this song stuck in my head, which everyone knows, by the way. I made sure everyone knew this was happening. And so I go in and I'm like, all right, I'm going to be a skeleton because like I for the meme, obviously. And I go in there and a voice comes out of me. I'm like, okay, skeleton, look for skeleton in different languages. Okay, skeletro. Okay, we'll just go with letro. And for whatever reason, my brain was just like, oh, letro. And it just said it, letro. And that was just the voice for the entire night. And so we go in there and it's a 1-page adventure, right? It's going to be like a 2-3 hour game. So we're all just in it for like the gigs. And we all couldn't stop laughing. Like it started off ridiculous because it's a game about you being skeletons going into a human dungeon, aka a human village, and our mission was to go get our friend Billy Bob a hat. And we go in and it was just a ridiculous time. But what happened is, I have to tell you this because it was a culmination of the whole game, where we started off like this was what we were doing. It was a ridiculous game. So we started off in like that giggly way. And then like we would get into like combat situations and it would just be, we would just continue to make it more and more ridiculous. For example, we killed a seamstress because we thought they were a witch, a stitch witch to be specific. And so we killed him because he threw something hard at my arm and it fell off. And I was like, well, that's not very nice. So we threw a battle axe into his chest and he died. And so we did at that
Seems
point.
reasonable.
Exactly. And so at that point, I put on the body, like I marionetted it just for the gigs because I was just like, oh, this is, it's like, oh, look at me, I'm a flesh bag, blah, 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 And so I was doing ridiculous things with this. And then I'm like, oh, let's weekend at Bernie's this thing. So I just wore that for the rest of the game. Like I put on a jacket so I would just stick to this person. And
oh my god.
So I walked with this guy with a huge slash in his chest from a battle axe. And then and that was the first encounter. So from there on, it just escalated until the end. I was like, oh, let's do, and this is like great collaborative storytelling because at the end I was just like, oh, let's do plan, I don't know, I was like plan 46 section B subsection 2 dash A blah blah, and I just went on for a little bit there, and he was just like, what? And then one of someone else who was playing, it's like, the one where we turn into a Zoid. And I was just like, that's not where I was going with this, but I'm definitely down. Let's become a mecha skeleton right now. And so we just like, all 4 of us, we were just like, all right, let's do it. And we got in and we became this huge skeleton thing. And then we took down the bad guy. And then that was just our life from then on out. That's how we went back to our dungeon with a sheep, some more bones for everybody, some flesh for the zombies, and then we got promoted because we brought the wizard, the necromancer, some cool stuff because we sold a lot of potions and stuff, and then we leveled up to become a mini boss in that mission. became a shambling skeleton or something like that.
That's awesome.
The best thing is that I didn't know this, but at the end we did like this after this 30-minute after Patreon exclusive thing where we just talked about the game and stuff like that. And I found out that this was going to be canon in one of his one of Indoor's games that he's running right now on his channel, the city was going to exist, and everything that we did was going to exist, and our characters would be, in fact, in this dungeon as a mini boss if we were not out by the lake 80 miles from Santa Fe enjoying the lake, you know?
That's awesome.
Wow.
And it was just like this ridiculous culmination of time, and it's definitely been one of the most it hurt, like my cheeks hurt from smiling so much and my abdomen hurt from laughing so much, and we were all just at the entire game just like crying, laughing, just like off screen, just like, I can't believe this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing, this is right now. And so that's the most memorable game and situation I could possibly think of at this moment. I've had some epic moments in fighting things in other games, but that was definitely like, you know, I don't think there's a lot of ridiculous games that happen very often in the TTRPG space, and so it was very
one-shots are good for it.
Yeah,
One-shots
exactly.
are great for it.
And it was really nice to be invited to like just a really ridiculous game, and that's where it went, instead of taking itself too seriously. Although I don't know how you take something called a skeleton adventure one page super seriously.
Yeah, Steph did another time that we had technical issues. Steph ran Honey Heist for us twice, and both of them were absurdly funny. The first one I really, really enjoyed because it was the retirement community, but oh my gosh, both of them were so good.
You mean the lost tales of shellacking a Sheeran that Callie called Ed Sheeran into a busted doorway to seal an ice cream truck so you could ride it to Absalom Station?
Yeah, that would be the one.
Kenny missed all of that, by the way. That was all of Kelric, Miyu, and Callie.
It was ridiculous. Playing with Miyu and Callie was, oh my gosh, like talk about people who can riff off of whatever's going on. I mean, it was just really pushing myself to keep up. But luckily, I'd created a pretty fun character, so I was like, I can totally play the old man in this group. Like, how old can I make my voice? I'm down. It was really good.
I mean, the one that went out that we ended up having to re-record on Easter was still pretty good. Like, I still giggle about your drying a harness on your bear with paint.
That was super cute. It was fun. Yeah, I enjoyed that. Yeah, and
I thought you would.
Just the fact that you ran them so beautifully. It was so good. I mean, keeping people on track, especially with one-shots, is hard, and you did a beautiful job when we were getting too ridiculous. So, like, how about we move this story in a direction? It was very cool.
It's almost like I'm used to herding cats.
Indeed. It was really fun. It was great. All right. What do you think is the thing that people remember most about season 1 outside of cast turnover?
Yosoki fishing.
Yeah, Yosoki fishing.
Sorry, PB. That's a thing they did. That these two right there.
I'll be honest.
They went fishing with the Yosoki.
It was my idea. I will own it. I didn't think it was going to be this big a thing that people would think about Yosoki fishing. Oh, goodness. I don't even remember. Like, I read something about one of the books I read had something similar happening, only the crew member was willingly doing it. So I was like, oh, well, we can make someone unwillingly do this, right? Sure. It'll teach them a lesson.
Yeah, so for everyone else, what happened was that one of Mew's NPCs was lying to our crew, and they were on board our ship because we were going to go seek out something or someone, and they had us fight another ship without telling us that they were going to be fighting us, and so we blew up that ship because they wouldn't stop. And to kind of get them to tell us the truth, we packed them into a suit. And yes,
The most important thing was we were told to find someone. We had the name. We the Susoki was that name, and then after, we were blowing up the ship, and the Susoki was one of the gunners, they were saying, "Die! That person's name, die!" And we were like, "Wait, we thought you were that person."
oh yeah, that's right.
What? That was why we were like, "Oh no, Miss Thing has to learn a lesson." That's what we were like. No, no.
Yep.
And
so go
there
ahead.
was some serious trauma.
Yeah. No, this thing was this Yosoki was put into a spacesuit, and we tethered them via rope and sent them into space, getting some salvage using magnet boots, and we pulled them back in so that we could fix our ship.
And now, at the time, Phaedra was on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Phaedra was a psychologist
Yes.
or a psychiatrist.
Yes.
So Phaedra was totally there to fix the damage we created within the Susoki psyche. We asked about its survivability. We timed everything. We were not going to kill the Susoki.
So this was definitely premeditated.
It was thought out.
Yeah.
Yeah, murder hobo, we head down. You're right. Fine.
It's almost like I know a thing.
One of my favorite things also was boba, because I misunderstood it at first. Miu was saying, we were at this, trader place, this basically strip mall in space, and they have signs up, boba, and I was like, boba, I want some tapioca drinks. I was like, there are a lot of tapioca drinks in space. That was not what they meant. They meant buy one, buy another.
I couldn't stop laughing. Like, I'd never heard that before.
Mm-hmm.
I had to edit out probably a good 3-4 minutes of just dying about it. It was so funny to me. Unexpected. So good.
Okay, so I have a good question, I feel. What is your favorite thing about playing in the space sci-fi genre?
Ooh.
I'll take a moment to think about it. PB, have you played a game in space sci-fi genre?
Have I played a game? Yes, I played Star Trek.
Stars Without Number?
I've played Star Trek Adventures before.
Okay.
And that was in space until we were on the planet. But I feel like that's how it works out, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
You're in space until you're not.
Mm-hmm. Always.
Yeah, I played one of the starter adventures when that was first coming out, the new iteration of it, by somebody. Oh God, I'm really bad. I don't remember who wrote it, but I think that's the only game I've played in space that I can at least recall at this very moment in time.
What was your favorite thing about playing in that sort of setting?
It was,
if you can remember.
At that point, I'd pretty much only been exclusively playing D&D, with the exception of, I think, one Numenera game. And by one, I mean one session of a Numenera game. So it was refreshing to have take this role-playing element from this medieval-esque setting that you have in D&D 5e, or at least the version, the games I'd been playing at that point, and going into this, far in the future, very advanced thing in which, aside from just playing with a bunch of people who were nerding out about Star Trek because, that's what they grew up with, they were very happy to play that game and nerding out the entire time. It was all of the new available avenues of things that I would think about in modern times, in modern solutions that can't apply in D&D, but rather having those thoughts and being like, oh, modern solutions, but more, because now it's the future, and oh, I need to be able to do this thing. I need to be able to do GPS. And it's like, oh, easy. Bang. We have it now. Just a few buttons, and I can tell you about like this part of the solar system in 2 easy steps. So it becomes like things, I don't want to say it becomes easier, but it becomes, I think, more fun to play. You have way more exaggerated options. And I think that's a lot of fun.
How about you, Steph?
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of my thought is I love playing with tech, and I brought that in a little bit with EOS in terms of her like experimenting with bra and stuff, because it's so interesting to have kind of an open sandbox. You know, you can go to any world, and you know it's almost like having an AU for everything, except you're playing the same person every time, like going about this, and having the ability to, like, you know, I was able to bring something that's very real and topical of, you know, like a war veteran who was injured, but then have them have the choice of, hey, I can get an augment and get my sight back. It's not the same, but I have it.
Right.
You know, and doing things like that, and just the fun different ways that technology can just kind of, you know, that give us as players to yes and. Like when EOS got the visual upgrade from Eve, and like we had no idea how to tell how she did that. So Kelrick and I yes-anded an entire scene of, no, of course there's going to be some kind of log in the augments that can be downloaded to the computer, like you would upload your Fitbit information to your phone app to kind of see what happened there, so that the tech guy can help the medic figure out what happened to her augments.
Yeah, that was super fun.
Stuff like that just is so much fun to me. It's like, and I don't know, maybe I'm hoping there won't be space combat because it's fun to watch.
There will be space combat.
I mean, at least we're using the Stars Without Numbers system, which makes it a little bit better. But
there's the space combat in Starfinder is really good if you're sitting around a table and you're able to plot things out and work with the players around the table. It's very collaborative. For a storytelling perspective and from a remote perspective and for a podcasting or and streaming perspective, it's very county and very dry. It sounds like you are narrating choreography, and it's yeah.
I feel like because Miyu is not here, I have to go 1 intern and 2 intern and
yes.
Intern.
Yeah,
because they say that every time we talk about it.
And 2. Well, that's because that's how you have to pilot, because you're like, okay, 1, 2, turn, 3, 4, 5, turn.
As the producer for those episodes, cutting all of as much of that out as possible while still having it make sense was so much. Oh, I hated space battles for that reason. I'm like, if I cut all of this, will there be enough content to even put out a show?
Because it took so long to record. Like, I remember one of the space battles that we had took about an hour and a half to 2 hours to record.
It's awful.
Some of it was that we were learning the rules as we were going with it, clarifying the rules as we were going with it, and so that took a little bit of time. But yeah, it was fairly brutal. Miyu found the Stars Without Number system, which is like almost a 1-page for the combat, and I think that was so much more fluid and led to more interesting storytelling.
Yeah,
like Kelrick throwing the crew under the bus for command points.
Well, it gives the GM a lot of control over story and introducing interesting challenges.
Yeah.
Stars Without Number is on Drive-Thru RPG. I'll post a link once I find it. But while I'm doing that, Cal, what do you like most about the sci-fi fantasy setting?
So sci-fi fantasy is really what I enjoy the most. Like, I love that there's an option to play a Jedi if that's what you want. Or, I mean, like, anything has like sort of that, I have a laser sword and I will fight you kind of thing. And so you have that absolute ridiculous stuff that you actually can't do with science. Like, I cannot make a laser battle axe. There's not a thing light will allow me to create without some serious other tools. So I really like that kind of stuff. I really love, I mean, if we want to go Paizo Starfinder specific, like if we want to just I love that they give us the opportunities to talk about genders in a different way, because you can have any species you want and they can have as many genders and marriage types and, you know, ways of inventing self so that you feel comfortable in your own body, and ways of just society accepting that it's a great way to have that 101 for people who aren't used to that. And it's a great way to explore those things. Like, I feel like that's one of the things in our season 1 that I would have liked us to do more and better. So I'm really looking forward to opportunities to sort of explore that in season 2 a little bit more. But that's one of the things I love most. And, you know, Paizo really did a great job. Like, they have the Shirin, which have the 3 genders. I don't know how I feel about them calling the 3rd gender host, but, you know, at least it's a 3rd gender. And they talk about different marriage styles, and they gave us the opportunity to, you know, land on a backwater area of a planet, and, you know, the one saloon to stop in had prostitutes everywhere, and we were able to talk about how people should be able to control their own bodies and be sex positive in a way that was awesome. So I really like that stuff about it, which is just a little bit more challenging to do in classic
Arthurian.
well, just, you know, sort of the, what was it, Gygaxian era, because that's not what was done. So that's kind of cool.
I feel like and you're right, in the past it wasn't done, but I do want to point out, as somebody running a 5e module on the side, that they are getting, like, it's not the best improvement, but they're inching. In the module that just came out last year, Dragon Heist, which I love to bits, they actually have an NPC that's specifically non-binary.
Nice.
There is a pair of lesbian couple. There's a lesbian couple NPC, and there is a gay couple NPC who have a shop around, like, a location that is central to your story there, which I thought was really neat. I geeked the hell out when I read that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's awesome the way things are going. Like, I have a copy of the Pathfinder Playtest 2 book that I'm working on reviewing, and they've changed it from races to heritages.
Ooh, nice.
Is so much better. Like, I've sat around with a couple of my POC friends talking about how races is just, why are you bringing this into our and so having Paizo actually work towards that. I was a little disappointed when I talked to the people at Paizo that they're not planning on taking it to Starfinder, but it's really easy to start incorporating that language instead, now that we're exposed to it in some other area. And so I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, for me it was frustrating that they went with races instead of species. Like, it just doesn't make sense. I do not understand. Like, it's a genre thing even. I'm like, come on. But anyway.
Yeah. But I mean, this is to say that, I mean, the things I love about what's going on is that there is all of this room to have inclusive stories in space and deal with planets that can be, you know, dimension shifts off, but in a modern way. What was the thing? one of our cast members brought to all of our attention at one time how ace people are almost always portrayed as non-humans. So they're either androids or, anything but human beings. And so that's something that's really been stuck in my head since that was brought up, because I just didn't think about it. So having that, being exposed to that is really interesting, and it's a great way to think about that for storytelling in the future. So anyway, yeah, sorry, I geek out about this stuff. I think it's super, super, super interesting and awesome.
I mean, that's the whole reason that we started Experience Points, was because we wanted to have representation. We wanted to see ourselves in the media that we consume, and we don't, at the time there wasn't a whole lot out there for us, and so we wanted to create that space. We wanted to be in that space, and so these things are important to think about and listen to, and
and even more, I think it's a great opportunity, especially like what you're doing with this show, is to have a collaborative experience, because representation, only gets so far because you just genuinely don't know about things. Or like Kelrick was saying, you just don't think about things like how asexuality was being represented, because it never came to mind, because it's just sort of not your experience, but rather somebody else's. And through your collaborative and community efforts, you were able to learn about that. And with that, you can now express it here, where you're sharing it with people like Abe over in chat, who's learning about all of this now. So I think it's amazing to have representation, but even more so with this show, have that sense of collaboration and community, to be able to share our knowledge off with other people, because we've all had our own life experiences and know different people who realize and experience things in different ways.
Definitely. And I think that was one of the most awesome things in the experience of being a part of this network and creating this podcast and everything, is being more connected with the queer community on Twitter, and the queer podcasting community and streaming community specifically. Like, it was such a breath of fresh air to be connected with so many like-minded people and so many awesome voices.
Yeah, and I mean, even things we struggle with. Like, one of the hardest things that we struggled with is working on saying you guys instead of saying y'all or folks or everyone. Like, it's just so ingrained that you don't think about it, but it's one of those things that we have really worked on. There are several times, and this is one of the things that I will miss about doing a pre-recorded episode is the number of times I was like, or someone else was like, hey, why don't we re-record that without the you guys part and say it? Or if we got someone's gender wrong, just because, we're used to talking to people and knowing what their genders are, but they're playing a different gender in, or having different pronouns in game. And so we would make that mistake just automatically, and then we have to go, wait, and then go back and re-record it, and fixing those things, because it's super important to us. And it's super important to people who listen to us. I remember we were making that mistake quite a bit early on. Excuse me. And one of our fans, actually, I think Jess is one of the people who introduced me to Steph, guided me into meeting you, messaged me and said, this is a thing that's a problem for me, because it's kicking me out of the story when I'm expecting you to be able to represent me. And so we've started taking that. We were like, thank you for the feedback. Let's work to fix that. And we have worked to fix it constantly since we started, because all of these things are really important to us. We want our community to feel even just safe listening to something where they don't have to, where we tune in and we're like, okay, this is just going to be respectful and we don't have to worry about it failing. So we work real hard on that.
Before we get into another topic, because I have a branching topic off of what you were just talking about, Cal. There is an audience question from Abe. Steph, when are you going to get into the DM seat?
Well, I already have for the Honey Heist one shot. I don't know that I could DM Starfinder. If I am 100% honest, I'm going to leave Pathfinder to Miyu because they adore Pathfinder, and I am excited to be on an adventure they lead should they decide to do so. But I will say, and this is no promise, so nobody can hold me to this. This is just ideas, that I am considering doing my own pod. I do not have a system yet, but I have a horror idea. Well, that horror magic type deal with battling monsters and all those things, but I don't have a system for it yet. It's a story idea that I had that I couldn't get off the ground, and realized once I got into tabletop that I could take a lot of those ideas that I couldn't make work into a story and put it out there, even if it's just for fun, as a podcast. And hush, Joe, just because I told you the idea this weekend. But yeah, so that may come in the future. I just have to first find a system I like for it, and then see if I can find a cast. I hopefully can find an LGBT cast for it. But it may not be on the Experience Points network. All of this is very, very speculative. So it could happen. I'm maybe running my Disney inspired one shot a couple times online. So, because there were a lot of people that I talked about it with, including Kalrek and Kenny, who were interested in playing the one shot that I ran at MomoCon, but obviously they're in Washington. MomoCon was in Atlanta. So once I can kind of get an idea for how to port that into Roll20, I may be doing that a couple sessions just to introduce people to the world, but I don't want to anger the great mouse. So that's just for fun. But yeah, I want to do something with that horror idea. I think if I can figure out a system for it and get the right group of people together, it could be an amazing campaign that I think people would dig. And I don't know every TTRPG pod or stream out there, but I've seen more of the horror elements in streams, not so much in the pods. And I would love, like, even though I'm terrified of the idea of editing a podcast, it would have to be a pod. Like, I want that control to be able to add in the music, because I think that, because in a horror movie, a lot of that the atmosphere comes from the music. It comes from the sound effects, and it comes from that kind of pacing. And it would, in my opinion, I would want to tell a story that way.
Yeah, it's really hard when you're streaming and recording. If you're playing music in the background for your stream, it's going to get caught up in your audio, most likely. And so when you do editing, if you're going to cut that into a podcast, then that becomes problematic. So yeah, there's some give and take. But yeah, I think you would be phenomenal in a horror podcast.
You have been phenomenal in in a horror-based thing, and I can just see you as the DM in one wonderfully.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think one of my tangential topic is how are we going to deal with content warnings and things like that as things come up? Is there some sort of safety system that we want to implement, and if so, what?
I think there have been. Go ahead.
I'll look it up. I don't remember what it was called. Is all that I was gonna say. I'm just gonna frantically go into my Google Docs and see if I can find it.
Yeah.
So a lot of safety tools are implemented for the cast, just so that if anything, they're need to the X card is one of the ones. We covered some pretty hefty topics when we were recording experience points, and it was really easy for us to look back and be like, oh, maybe we should like preface this with a content advisory, just so that our listeners aren't ambushed by something really serious happening, or really just really serious happening.
Something triggering.
Yeah.
I've watched the VODs of a Vampire the Masquerade pod that Little Red Dot was a part of called The Sound of Silence. And one of the things that occasionally they'll pop in and say, but they always say at the top of every session, is that we are not playing nice people. They are going to do horrible things. And if that is not for you, that is fine. There are plenty of other, things on their channel to watch. And I know that's a little bit harder because sometimes, like specifically we talked earlier about the bazaar bombing. Like that was really easy after the fact to think about, hey, we need to make sure that we put a disclaimer on that because, a lot of people have been in situations, unfortunately, or even just from hearing about it and having loved ones in the situation of a bombing or a shooting. Like, I hate that we have to think about it in that kind of vernacular, but it's true.
Or even, members of our community who've been in the military.
Yeah, exactly. It's easy to do that in retrospect, and it's a little bit harder on the front end without seeming like you're giving spoilers.
Right.
But I don't want to put all of the onus on our future GM. But for the things that we can control, like that particular situation, like we as a cast, and we don't often talk about what goes on behind the mic when that's not in recording, but Miu had warned us beforehand that was going to happen. It did not make our reactions to it any less genuine because we did not know when that was happening. We just knew that a bomb was going to go off so that we were prepared.
Yeah.
It did not make it any less jarring.
No.
Any less like frantic.
Well, and it was a chance to give us the big X on it and say, you know what, we are not comfortable with this. And from there, go out to the audience and say, if you are uncomfortable with this kind of stuff, then, this is not the episode. You can skip forward if you need to,
Yeah.
So
I think in stream, the best thing we can do is, talk about the stuff that we know is going to happen and be mindful if it's potentially triggering.
Yeah.
Live is trickier.
Yeah, I mean, Abe's suggestion says that a blurb at the beginning is really helpful, and I agree. It's not something that we really did with Pun Times as much when we were running Slasher, and I meant to. It was something I meant to do because it's a horror game. Of course, there's going to be like intense combat or intense content, but sometimes it's not all that intuitive.
Yeah, and I'm always at the school of it is better to say too much than too little.
Right.
Because like I will warn somebody if I'm giving them a blurb or the first chapter of something, just like, hey, this has some icky stuff in here that could be uncomfortable or triggering. Like, yes, it's intended to be uncomfortable, but you could also skip that part if you need to.
Right.
just because I've had friends in the past go, well, you told me there was no sex in this book, on a book recommendation, not something I wrote, because I forgot that there was a sex scene at the beginning of the book.
Yeah.
Because it was so inconsequential to me that it didn't occur to me to warn them.
It happens so often now that that we are showing media to our kids, and it's media that I grew up with, and I'm like, yeah, obviously this is fine. I watched it around their age. Holy crap! Like, there is stuff in movies that I watched when I was their age. I was like, how did my parents not have heart attacks around this?
Or how do I not remember? Like, was it really so pervasive that gay people were,
oh man,
just derided, that I just didn't even remember it from my youth? Like, I don't remember it in a lot of the movies I watch. And then I was like, hey, let's check this one out. And no.
It was like we watched The Sandlot, and I'm like, yeah, that's pretty wholesome.
Monster Squad. I was like, I loved Monster Squad as a kid. Nope. Yeah, just
super disappointing.
We even go to movies now, and we were going with a couple of straight friends who were real close, and we spend a lot of time together. They're in our other gaming group, and we went to go see what was that movie? The European spy dude with the suits and the umbrellas and what have you.
Kingsman
2. And right in the middle of it, they're, just talking about gay people in a way that ruined the movie for both of us. Both of us would have walked out if we weren't with our friends. And we were like, yeah, one of those moments where you're just like, guess we'll just sit. So, yeah. We don't want to produce that kind of content where someone feels that way.
Yeah. It's it's one of the reasons, again, another reason why we want to have this space. We want to make it, I think the word safe space is used so often, but that's really, what it is. We want a safe space for people like us to come and enjoy media.
Yeah. Because it can be very jarring if you're, and it's interesting because it was a conversation I had with a couple of people recently about the sheer number of podcast listeners who got into listening to podcasts because of grief and wanting something to distract them. Myself included. I got into Welcome to Night Vale because my dad had passed away. And it helped take my mind off of my grief. And there are hundreds, thousands of different things other people could be listening to podcasts for, to distract them from. And yes, we're going to touch on on a potentially triggering topics because we want to be true to life in a, for lack of a better way of putting it. But we also want to acknowledge that, hey, we know this could be troubling for some people. We're going to give you that out so that it doesn't ruin your experience.
Yep.
Because I've had that happen where I've listened to something before and it threw me off. But I've also had the opposite experience listening to a podcast once where there was a content warning at the beginning of it. And then I spent the entire episode on edge, like, what was that for? There's never a content warning on this. Like, what was the warning for? And then when I got to it, it was gnarly. Like, and it was a horror pod. It was bad.
Okay.
But, so it is important. Like, but it's also important to be specific if you can. Like, we can add a general disclaimer that, we're playing people who fight in space or insert, thing here, because obviously Kenny knows what we're going to be doing more than any of the rest of us right now.
A lighthearted romp through.
Why do I not believe you?
No, it's it's actually a great segue to talk about season 2 a bit. we're going to be playing a Starfinder adventure path produced by Paizo called The Dawn of Flame. I'll hold this up. And it's for those of you who aren't familiar, adventure paths are basically pre-written stories that the characters get to kind of play within the bounds of. That doesn't mean that there aren't choices for the characters to make or aren't narrative developments for them to create and scenes for them to have. It just gives a tighter framework to work within, and it gives the storyteller or the GM some opportunities to to work within something that is set, so that they don't have to come up with absolutely everything on the fly. Or they don't have to spend like hours upon hours of pre-planning to make sure that just absolutely every eventuality is covered, which it never is. Yeah. With season 2 in mind, what do you hope to see in season 2? What is something that you hope will happen? Like,
before we get into that, can I direct us in a slightly different direction real quick?
Yeah, sure.
So for season 2 for the month of June, we have some pretty exciting stuff that we really want people to know about. We have giveaways, which is super exciting. Like, we have a core rulebook to give to people. We have critical hit and critical fumble decks, the condition cards. We've got, sets of dice, thanks to Q Workshop. We have the Starfinder beginner box. Like, we have a bunch of stuff that we're going to be giving away. So we are going to have a lot of that. And then Kenny has a really exciting give for the end of different things.
Yeah, so the APs, the adventure paths, are done in volumes. This is part 1 of 6. This is a 6-volume set. And so what I'm planning on doing is taking the binding off, because flipping through it will... the pages will start coming out anyway. And putting it into a binder, and as I take notes and everything, I'm going to be putting all the stickies in the binder and all the loose leaf in the binder, and at the end of each adventure path, I plan on giving that GM binder away to a lucky listener. So you will have all of my curse words on paper and all of my what the fuck are they doing with circles and arrows and little doodles probably. But yeah, you have an opportunity to win one of those. And Paizo has been so awesome in supporting us and giving us all of these amazing things to be able to do this. So I'm really impressed.
Yeah, and everything that we're giving away outside of the adventure path, we or so far it's only me, but we will be doing our own sort of reviews of, and you can find those on our Experience Points YouTube channel. And we post them up, links up on Twitter all the time. So those, you'll have access to those. And for the cards, it was pretty straightforward. For the core rulebook and for the beginner box, I'm really trying to focus on what Paizo has done to make it inclusive. Because if you want to read about the Starfinder core rulebook at this point, you can go almost anywhere. You're not going to get new information there. But if you want to see what they have done, which impacts on, the LGBTQIA, community and, all of the intersectionality in there that I can think of through talking with friends and what have you about the book, that's what will be in these reviews. Why is this game in particular, why is this where Experience Points started playing a game? So, we're super excited to be giving those away. And so Paizo has just been so generous with all of this, and it's been amazing. And Q Workshop giving us the dice sets to give away is so exciting. Like, it's just been so much support has been just fantastic. And we're really looking forward to passing all of these things along to, fans, listeners, people. I mean, we're just super, super excited about it.
Yeah. Given that segue, what do you want to see in season 2, Calric?
My Squawks pet. I did that just for Steph's eye roll because I've been talking about this ever since I saw it in the Alien Archives 2. They're so cute. Oh my gosh, so cute.
So
go ahead.
It's actually really awesome. Having a Squawks pet is actually a feat, and it gives you some pretty amazing bonuses.
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool. The Squawks can pull dirty tricks. It's so cool. But anyway, so that's something I'm personally excited about. But I'm excited about moving over to the Twitch streams and seeing how the live interaction helps us with storytelling over rules. Because I think rules are still going to be an important part, especially with going through an AP. But there's a lot more opportunity for all of us to say, hey, I really want a scene with PB. I really like what PB's character is doing. And I think that the two of us can, during our 10-minute rest while we try and get our stamina points back, it'd be really nice for us to have this interaction. Would be super cute. And doing those kinds of things, I also think it gives us a really great opportunity to talk about all of these topics that we didn't get to dive into in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
I'm super, super excited about, all of us being a little more keyed to community-based storylines that we can tell and we want to tell. So those are the things I'm super excited about. Plus, Space Thundercat, super excited about that. Come on.
Steph, how about you?
I'm excited to kind of start an adventure from the beginning with everybody in the cast. And I'm really jazzed for the character that I've built that everybody will get to meet on Saturday. I don't have a ton of stuff for their backstory, but in listening to something that Kenny had said previously, I am trying my hand at, playing a recurring non-binary character on stream.
Nice.
And hoping to God that I don't accidentally misgender them at some point, because it's harder for me with my own characters than it is with people, which doesn't make sense to me, but that's the case. So I'm hoping this is my effort of being better at it for myself in talking about my own character. And yeah, the concept I came up with is going to be pretty boss. Hopefully it doesn't lead to me dying. And
are you so exciting. So exciting. I just the drama of the images you sent to put it in my head. I'm so excited. So good.
Well, now I have curiosity. Cannot wait.
I've shared it in the main Discord.
Oh my gosh. Oh, so I am horrible at Discord. I keep it closed because I get distracted and I don't get work done.
Well, this is also a good moment to plug for our viewers that we do have a Discord channel for all of the Experience Points Network podcasts and our stream. So you can feel free to follow us there and talk to us and ask questions and nerd about stuff. Yes, Abe, another Discord. You don't have to, but it is there. I also help curate the Facebook, so I apologize it hasn't been updated recently with life stuff getting in my way, but I'm getting better at it again.
I don't help. I should. I'm the one who's supposed to be helping. I don't help. I'm terrible at helping. I'm the worst helper. I own it.
All right.
Steph is the bomb.
There's a Discord link in right now. You click on it, you can get access to all of our public-facing channels.
Okay, so what about PB?
Yeah.
PB, you excited about for joining season 2?
I am excited almost in general just to be playing Starfinder. It's a system that has been on my periphery for a while. But just, no one has run it before. And I've heard about it. It's the same thing with Pathfinder. It's always just been there. It's been a system that I'm like, well, that would be fun to try out someday. And then I heard about Starfinder. I'm like, well, that would be fun to try out someday. And someday is going to be Saturday. So I'm looking forward to finally having the excuse to read up on Starfinder and what it's about, and learn even more than just my quick read through of the book, finding out all the cool things. Because right now it looks a lot like D&D and Shadowrun had a baby and it became this book, because it looks very similar. I will say, from just looking through it quickly, because oh my gosh, the amount of feats in this book are many. And I was like, wow, that's gonna be fun to read one day. I just kept scrolling and I'm like, we're not through it yet. Nope, still going. So I'm looking forward to that, and playing with you guys and with your infinite experience in Starfinder, and so you can guide me into what I was gonna say a word, but probably I shouldn't say the shenanigans. That's a PC word. The shenanigans.
We can swear here. You can
We're
swear.
not family friendly.
No, okay. The fuckery we're gonna get into as we play through this, because I am gonna come in this as a bab, not knowing much about the system, except the very basic what's on the page. But we all know that's a much different experience once you actually start playing the game. So I look forward to taking your lead, and then also taking your lead and then going off on some beautiful tangents.
Awesome. Yeah, feats are the hardest thing when you are leveling up. Like everything else, you're like, cool, spells, used to it. Everything, yeah. Feats, wait, what?
So you need a matrix to go through and figure out what feats you need, because some feats are dependent on other feats, and then you can't take them unless you have X, Y, or Z.
It's almost exciting, because one of my favorite things in D&D, which I almost prevent myself from doing nowadays, is taking feats, because I think it's just so fun to customize your character in that manner.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I'm excited to have because in D&D it's like, oh, I have these 20 maybe choices, and I get to choose at least 2 by the end of this character. And so I can play around with that, and I've done that so many times that I'm just like, oh, these are trash, these are high value, these are the memes, and this is the fun.
Yeah.
And so now in Starfinder, I'm excited to not really make that list, because there's too many to make a list, because I have to make other lists on trying to understand how feats work, apparently, because I didn't know that, because I've only scrolled through the feats. So I'm looking forward to that part, I think, just because customization, I think, is my favorite part of any game.
Oh, and there's so much that you can do. I mean, from just out the gate, you have all the different species that you can choose from. There are 7 main species in the core rulebook. And then there are now 2 alien archives out that have, at least 20 each added. 15 to 20 each added. So you have 37 different species to choose from. They have a pretty good rubric on how they do it as far as stats are concerned. Mm-hmm. But they all have really cool flavor to them. They all I played a Verthani, and they have this chameleon-like skin that allows them to be really stealthy. If they're standing still, and they their heritage is that they love to augment themselves, and so they get to have not just one augment in the same space, they get to have 2 augments in the same space. And so it's it bends the rules in such a way that it makes it so interesting.
And actually, that ties back to our earlier conversation about how playing in space is different, because you have so many planets that are different. Like, Verses, you were able to really play with some of the social systems and how that was done. And then Steph was really big on pulling in from their history of Vlaka that, some of it was in the book, some of it Steph just made up, and it was awesome.
Case in point, I probably made up about 80% of it.
Yeah, Paizo does a great job at filling in lore, but it's also a lot of fun just to kind of think about your character and be like, yeah, this happened to them on their planet. And this is what it's like at home. That's fine. And from the standpoint of just, personal experience and human experience, everybody sees things in different ways anyway. And so what's to say that their perception of how it is on their planet is wrong?
Totally.
One thing.
What's your favorite thing about season 2, Kenny? What are you looking forward to the most?
I'm looking forward to getting to sit behind the seat and put y'all's feet to the fire and see what y'all come up to. Feet to the fire because Dawn of Flame. Yeah. But no, seriously. I've read through the adventure path several times already, and there's so many fun, interesting things in there just to start with. And I'm really excited to see how y'all interact with the different NPCs that are in there and the setting. We've already been to the Burning Archipelago, and that's another setting that we're going to revisit, but we're going to be doing it in such a way that it will feel fresh, it will feel new, and it will feel different. It'll be familiar, which is great, but the setting and the story and all of the nice lore, the meaty lore, will make it feel so different. So I can't wait for that. I cannot wait to see.
Nice.
One of the most interesting things about Starfinder rules, I've learned the rules. I would say I'm about 60% good on it. Like if people have a question, I'm like, okay, this is probably about what it is. But like there are rules for how to hack a computer. Like there are rules about building computers and AI and all of this, and I'm like, I went to college for this shit. Like I know like how this works here. I don't want to learn a whole other fucking system for computers because my mind will go into places where I'm just like, I don't want to think about this right now. So yeah, that's one of those things where I was reading through the rules and I'm like, no, I'm going to purposely ignore those rules for now.
Dave, a really good question.
What is it?
Yeah.
So with the AP for season 2, how close are you planning on staying to it versus giving the cast the ability to take the story where they want? My plan is to use the AP as a starting point, and then going from there. If the PCs want to explore other areas or have their own interests, I want to be able to feed that. It's using the AP as a framework for building a story that everyone wants to do. And so within the context of what the AP is and the story that it's trying to tell, I want to make sure that the stories that the players want to tell also get out there. I have two favorite Starfinder pods. One is Cosmic Crit. They are great for learning the mechanics of the game and for really going through the rules and feeling like you are staying really close to the core of the game and the heart of the game. The second one is the side quest Inn. And it's really interesting because they both played the same adventure path. It was the Dead Suns. Yeah, they did the Dead Suns adventure path. Immediately side quest Inn took a left turn and they went off the AP following a completely different tangential storyline that was in the backstory of one of the characters. And they were doing that, and they had some of their most potent and palpable and like goose pimply moments that I'm getting right now through following those sorts of storytelling. And through that storytelling, they were able to really flesh out their characters and really explore a lot of fun things. And then they came back to the AP to kind of further the story. And so I can only hope that I can DM that well. But that's kind of the goal, is to kind of blend those models of staying to the core of the storytelling and the core of what the framework is, but also allowing a lot of freedom for the player characters, for the cast.
I will say that was one of the things that the side quest inn did beautifully, was just that interweaving of AP and homebrew. I've never seen it before like that. It was so good. I really enjoyed that. And for Cosmic Crit, I will say that when I first had the idea to start Experience Points, there were 2 podcasts that I listened to that I reached out to, and they were both fantastically supportive. They were so wonderful. And one of them was Cosmic Crit. And honestly, they just bent over backwards to give me production advice and just talk about anything I had questions about. Then they had us on for an interview. They are just lovely. And the other is Tabletop Champions, which, again, Kyle was just amazing with. He's email me anytime, ask any questions, let me help. They were both lovely. They both loved the name Experience Points, which made me feel really good. And yeah, super awesome podcast. The whole podcasting community, in all honesty, has been just welcoming and amazing on Twitter. Like, just awesome. We just did a crossover episode. Kenny and I just did a crossover episode with Rolling Misadventures, which the first half of went live this week, and it is awesome in a totally cringy way. Like, I'm just like, oh, you do that? Oh, okay, sure. It was super fun. Again, like PB was saying, it was one of those sessions where you could not stop laughing. Your face just hurt. It was so good. And then our sister podcast, Roll to Fail, I attempted to do the skitter shot with them, and it was just so fun. They are all crazy. Like, we started the AP with them saying, hey, how about we push a button and the ship goes somewhere else? We'll just take the ship and not do the AP at all. No, I don't think we're going to do that. I like to yes and some, but that's too much for me. So yeah, we've been super lucky with all of the connections and friendships we have made to so many awesome people.
I will say, if y'all try to derail the story from the get-go, there is, no.
Is someone playing a gecko?
What? I'm sure that's an option.
I mean, I'm sure over the times that we've been playing with Callie on Slasher, you've mastered the art of gentle railroading.
No, like Slasher is so improvisational. I have to tell you, like, I had the only thing that I did with that one is I had the framework of an idea. I had y'all's backstory that y'all created for yourself, and then I'm like, as I'm talking, I'm like, what would it look like in a horror movie? What would they do in a horror movie? And I would just narrate from that. Like, that is what I did in those moments, because I'm just like, I don't. What are you doing? What are you doing? You all are really good though at playing into the horror movie trope on Slasher. So like, when you played into it well enough, and you all were really good sports about like getting yourselves almost murdered.
Was I though?
Yeah, more or less.
I'm still a little bitter about that. Just a little bit.
I'm still planning on finishing it.
Back of the knee.
Yeah.
I took a beat to the knee. Shut up, babe.
I tried to help.
He wants to have story power, and nope.
If people want to throw money at this to change the story, I mean, who am I to stop them?
Oh God.
I love that the one
gonna end up-
question was screwing people over rather than helping. Wait, what? I was just talking about supportiveness.
Abe likes to mess with me, and given what you're going to find out about the race that my character is, species, pardon me, yes. I was like, I did it right. No, I didn't. But the species that they are, and one of the little notes about them, oh, I may be rolling a second character if we get story input from people who want to give me a hard time.
So here's how
So
I think that I'm just spitballing how this will happen, but I really like how Numenera does GM intrusion, and so like I think that it might be played a little bit like that. So say we get a donation, maybe there'll be a GM intrusion.
We could also do it like what Pro does.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've played in a couple of programs. I know PB has as well, where people can donate to give people nat 20s to give you advantage or disadvantage.
Yep. With one of them, it was like re-rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a GM intrusion is also a good way to do it.
Yeah. So Numenera, the only way you earn experience is through GM intrusions. And a GM intrusion happens when a player rolls particularly well, and they offer an alternative. They say, it could end up like that. Or, if you want experience, this is what actually happens. And the player gets to decide.
If I may, a GM intrusion is actually a way of moving the story forward into a more dramatic area.
Yeah.
Not necessarily to take away a success.
Yes.
So like you get it.
It's a yes, but
yeah. The GM gets to do it for free if you roll a nat 1. But if you were just in a situation where it's like, you know what? It would be pretty natural if you're working with all these gears and you have described yourself as wearing really flowy garments for suddenly your sleeve to get caught. You are not necessarily going to lose your arm, but you better start thinking quickly. And there's different ways of using experience points where you can buy off the GM to not do it. You can say, you know what? I have an experience point. I'm going to give it to you instead of you giving me experience. And then you don't get to do the intrusion. I don't want my sleeve caught in that gear. Thank you.
Now, I'm going to play the experience system as Starfinder prescribes. I'm going to do it how, you're a certain level when you're a certain level. It's fine. I don't think we just need to keep track of numbers that closely. I think the donations for GM intrusions, or the opposite, which is player intrusions, where they suggest a story way that they can succeed, or change something from a bad situation into a okay situation. Yep. Yeah, exactly, Abe. We are nearing our closing of the stream. Let's move into some final thoughts. So let's start with PB. What are some final thoughts about Starfinder, life, anything?
Well, my final thoughts are that I'm extremely excited to start this game and see what shenanigans we're all going to get into and what this AP has in store for us. And I am also looking forward to exploring the queer space in space with experience points on Saturday and for the subsequent Saturdays until the end of season 2.
Yeah. So everyone knows we are going to be streaming on every other Saturday, starting this Saturday, June 1st. and we'll be streaming at 11 a.m. Pacific, and that would be 3 p.m. Eastern.
What time in Steph's world?
That would be 12.
No. It is 11 Pacific, 1 Central,
2
Eastern.
Thank you. Math. Who knew?
Okay.
I only record this for every intro and outro. Yeah, we do.
Oh my goodness.
So Steph, final thoughts?
I'm really excited for season 2 and to build our crew and what the interactions that streaming is going to bring to getting more people to know us and getting them to see us. Saturday, while it's a busy time slot, it's also a popular one. So hopefully it is here. Come see our queer content. Look at us be gay in space. And yeah, I'm really itching to kind of build up this character and this crew, and Lord help us if Miu tries to drag us all down under.
Very true. It'll be fine. Miu is kind of a wild card when they play, which I enjoy chaos engines, so that can be fun.
I love them to bits. Like, goodness, watch us riff off each other and slasher, because we planned none of that stuff.
Oh,
Just
man.
off the cuff. Of course they would have been friends in high school.
Yeah.
And we yes and the crap out of it. It's going to be hilarious.
Some final thoughts for me, and then I will let Kelrick do some final thoughts. I am super happy to be here with such wonderful and talented people. I am always so excited to get to play Starfinder, and even more so now that I'm in the GM seat. So I think this is going to be a whole lot of fun. Jess, yeah, we're wrapping up a bit, but we're so happy that you are here.
And we talked about you. It was awesome.
Sitsa made an appearance. It was one of Kelrick's favorite memories.
So I go.
Steph, did you have something?
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, I'd Kelrick.
So final thoughts for me are, I cannot wait to see how the Twitch stream changes the interaction, because every time I have been put on that kind of hot seat, I feel like the role play has just been better and dynamic and amazing, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how that works with the Starfinder rules when everything is much, much faster. And especially, I mean, Kenny is a super fun DM. I already knew, because I've played with him in these types of games. Slasher is a very different type of game than anything else. But I mean, yeah, Kenny's really good at the whole yes, and while still guiding you where they want you to go. So I'm super excited about that. I am so excited that you have joined us, PB. Really, I am absolutely looking forward to having a great many episodes where everyone is just laughing because of what is happening. So super, super excited just about all of it. And Miu as a character is going to be so much fun. You put Miu and Callie from Roll to Fail together, and it's like putting Alexa and Google Home next to each other, just talking at each other over and over and over. Like they just can't stop. It's crazy funny. It's so, so good. So yeah, I'm looking for all of those. I'm looking for building my new character. I'm just stoked about all of it. I'm so excited that Experience Points has made it a solid year in production. I mean, I started trying to get this together the October before we went live, and I am just so grateful that we are at this point where we can start a season 2 and just continue building these friendships into, something so powerful. It's been really lovely. Kenny.
Yes, sorry. Right. So that leads us to our final portion where we are going to give away something. Kelric, tell them what we're giving away.
Well, it is a Starfinder core rulebook. So we have talked about how awesome it is. There is definitely a review that talks about some of the more queer elements to this, so you can, see how our existence is acknowledged, which is always lovely in the games we play, so that we're not having to 101 everyone through just who that we exist. I love this game. I'm so grateful to Paizo. I've been excited about it since it came out. It is so good. So we are giving away the review copy that I got from Paizo to one of the people here today.
If you are wanting to participate in the giveaway, put something in chat. Anything in chat. Say hi. Nightbot needs to know that you exist. Boo.
And I will add, if I get drawn because I have been adding in chat, you can draw someone else. Because I have our handy dandy.
Thanks for listening. I will give everyone like 1 more minute to get to their keyboard, type something, press enter.
So is that going to be your background for the actual game, Kelric? Or is it going to be another mystery background?
I don't know. Kenny found this one for me because I had to take one of our children to an appointment, and I was like, just find me something super gay. And so this is really awesome for I don't know. I may have to find something that has a squawks on it, just because they're so cute. Sorry.
It's so much fun to type in gay plus anything into Google image search, because you get the most interesting results. Especially we were doing Honey Heist and I typed in gay bear. I had to turn off or turn on adult safe searching for that one.
Oh god. But the bear image you found was amazing.
It was good. It was really good. All right, it has been at least a minute. And
yes, you do. Yes.
Roll it.
Hey!
You have won yourself a book. Send us a DM at EQ Points on Twitter. If you are unable to do so, you can send us an email. I'm typing it out now.
At experiencepoints@gmail.com.
Oh my gosh, why can't I untype?
Yes, you could. I think they can message on Facebook as well. I've never tried.
As Twitch does funky markup stuff. Oh yeah, and you can DM on Twitch. That is a great thing to know.
Whisper at the channel. One of the two of them will see it. I keep pointing to where you are in the Zoom chat and not where
you're pointing up and right off the screen.
Right. Which I think that way. Even though on Zoom chat it's like Kenny is here and Kelric is here. Right? It looks like I'm pointing at PB.
So let us say our goodbyes. PB, why don't you kick it off? Tell us who you are, where we can find you.
Hi, I'm PB from PB Plays Inside. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter at both those names. I stream normally on Tuesdays and Thursdays around 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. I do variety gaming. You can also find me in games. I don't know that other game's announced yet, but assuming that it starts on the 3rd, I'm just gonna go ahead and say I probably should advertise it. It's over. I think it's gonna be on the Greyhawk channel. I'm gonna be playing a game with Nemedic called Grove something. Oh, I'm really good at this. It's gonna be on at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time over on the Greyhawk channel. Over on Mondays, on Fridays, I am over on Wandering DM's channel playing some Castle Falkenstein here with our good friend Kenny, where I'm part of the Lady Detectives, and we get into some fun shenanigans over on that channel. Yeah.
PB also does stream herself playing all sorts of games and doing artistic pursuits, and is a lot of fun to watch. Kelrick, you go next.
Hi, I'm Kelrick. You can find me on Twitter at Cormelon. I also do a lot of the posting from at EQ Points. I am obviously on the EQ Points Starfinder game. I GM the EQ Points Numenera game, and well, yes, the show is called Numenera. It's super fun. I play with some absolutely amazingly talented people, including my husband. So that's kind of cool.
And right, Jess, who is in chat?
Yes, I was getting there.
Okay.
And goodness, I think that's it for right now. Although we're hoping to kick up a Pathfinder 2 game in the near future on the EQ Points channel as well.
That'll be a lot of fun. Hi, my name is Kenny. You can find me on Twitter at PunderDrone. You will find me on every Experience Points thing, from Starfinder to Numenera to Pun Times, if we can finish our slasher campaign. Gotta find times. People are busy. But yeah, on Fridays you can find me over at Wandering DM's channel, playing Castle Falkenstein with PB. Thank you all so much for coming and joining us and kicking off our... Oh, Steph, what the heck did I do? I am so sorry. Steph, go ahead.
You're so used to our usual order when we do it, and you're last.
Yep. I am sorry. Go ahead, Steph, please do.
For those who don't listen to our pod, it usually goes Kelrick, me, Kenny. Now that it is just the three of us other than me. Hi, I'm Steph. You can find me on Twitter at Luna Starwind. I lurk a lot in Twitch chats as Steph the Bard. And you'll find me screaming my feels about podcasts on Twitter as I roll dice with all of these lovely folks for experience points, and hopefully, yes, we can get back to doll season soon.
Yes.
I need to know if we're gonna have a TPK or not. The inquiring mind needs to know what happens to her survivor.
Yes,
I have been
the
dying
survive?
to get this done. So want to get that game. It's so much fun. I don't want it to be over. It's so much fun.
But there needs to be some sort of resolution.
Yes, but it's so much fun.
Jeez.
We will have to do another slasher campaign at some point. All right.
Jess.
Oh, yes. Lots of people are dying for it. Thank you again so much for joining us and kicking off the season 2. We are so excited to do this and to invite you all to come and listen to us. We'll be kicking off on Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific. That is 2 p.m. Central. We will have, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central. I will get time math right at some point. And I will definitely be posting all over Twitter to make sure that you have links to come and find us. Follow us, like, subscribe, if you would please. Show us that you love us. Share us if you care. And let's raid someone so that
We'll give you the opportunity to win stuff.
oh yeah, there are dice to give away, and there are cards to give away, and all sorts of things throughout our Pride Month. So be looking out for those sorts of announcements.
Raid time.
Is there someone live who we can raid?
I don't know if Dot is still alive. Let's see. Who do we know that streams?
No.
Oh, we're so good at this.
I
Right?
know.
We so planned this well.
Opera Geek.
There we go. Yes, let's raid Kelly. Let's raid the other bard.
Oh, why cannot do it?
Sorry, guys. We're trying.
Yes, we are.
We're totally not new at this thing, and
Experts.
missing Jess
Thank
telling us how to make it work.
Ugh.
Hashtag
Sure.
things that happen live.
All right. Thanks, y'all. We'll be raiding soon. See y'all soon.
Bye.
Bye.